Some women are simply born rich, confident, and naturally magnetic to their desires. Let's be clear, this podcast is not for them. However, if you're a soul-driven, visionary, or entrepreneurial woman who's been on a mission to learn how to create a better future bursting to come out of you, welcome to my world. I'm Warwick, and this is Rich, Sexy, and Free. I've dedicated most of my career to helping women get to their core power and unlock the missing pieces for their own unique success. You may already know me as the author of the Big Book of Love. With 30 years experience in psychology, embodiment, manifesting, and energetics, we will be exploring together the keys to becoming rich, sexy, and free. So if this excites you, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform so you can stay up to date with the podcast. Hi, Warwick here, and welcome to Rich, Sexy, and Free. I'm so pleased that you're joining me for today's episode. We will be continuing with part 2 of the amazing stories of some of my guests talking about money, but also I'll be sharing some of my own insights around my own story. Let me remind you that you can easily reach out to connect and find out more about Rich, Sexy, and Free on any of the social media platforms at Rich, Sexy, and Free, or simply head over to richsexyandfree.com. Now, today's amazing guests we're highlighting Cynthia, Stant, the Royal Shaman Makhosi, and Krista Weber. Before we dive into their amazing money stories from disempowerment to empowerment, as we head on into the first week of 2025, I've got a real rocket up my backside for this year. I've been feeling that lift-off energy for the whole of December, and the closer I've got to this new year, I'm just feeling so excited about the energy that's coming through for 2025. 2 things have been very much coming to the forefront again this month, and with my clients and with myself. 2 themes I think are really important to touch on. We don't realize just how infiltrated, how impregnated we have been in our minds regarding being female and money, being rich and money. There's been so much shifting going on from women to have more money, women to be richer, women to create their own businesses. And yet the work now is so much on the inside of disentangling ourselves from beliefs that we just don't know are there. Again, I worked with a client this week that if she has too much money, her husband would feel disempowered. Those themes are replicated with my clients, but also in myself. Now, for me, it wasn't about a husband. It was about my father, about disempowering my dad if I step into my financial abundance. I very much had to peel away the layers, the lies, the illusions, the shadow work. And I would say the other part is so much more powerful. The idea that money and receiving money has to be hard. When I'm deeply aligned with myself and my feminine is at her full expansion, so I'm connected to my soul, to my spirit, to my truth, and I'm grounded into myself, which means I'm rooted into my masculine energy. So I'm fully present in my body. When I'm in this state, I'm in my millionaire state. I'm in my full, rich, sexy, and free state. When I'm in that, I know to my core, to every part of my cell and my being, I know that money is easy. I know that making money, receiving money, allowing money, having money is easy. It's an energy. It's a flow. It's an overflow. It can manifest in a million different ways. It is easy in its own presence. But the truth is, money itself is just a conduit, and it has a value that you put on it. Because the key part in this blockage, this shadow for me, has been that if money is easy, it doesn't have a value. So I know to my core that money is easy. I know that it's an overflow. I know that it's available. And every time I'm in that expanded state, money is always easy. And it flows to me and it comes to me and I get paid and I have more than enough. And that's the reality I live in. However, the limiting block is that if money is easy, it doesn't have a value. Now, this is left over from a very Puritan idea that you have to work hard for money. You've got to give money value. And it was almost like a justification, the idea that if you didn't slog away for money, it had no meaning. And for me, that's a very masculine idea. It's a very kind of this physical labor to give it value. And it was real for people in the past that you physically had to exchange working with your body to create money. That isn't the reality now. And it isn't the reality that I choose. And that's the point. We get to choose over and over again. What is our reality now? What is it that we want it to be? In my core to myself, I have always known that money is easy. Being rich is easy. It's my natural state. It's ease and grace. It's not about not having value. It doesn't have to be stressful to my nervous system. It can be spacious. It can be an overflow. And to me, being in that millionaire frequency, that overflow, for me, that's about being and having room to breathe. It feels spacious. I feel expanded. And so therefore it's just neutrality to me. That's what you may have heard others talk about, this neutrality. That's my state of neutrality, where it's just peaceful. It's not stressful to me. When I feel contained by this limiting belief, when this starts to rear its head, the first thing that I feel, of course, is fear, because it's like I'm being put in a box, a big square box that shrinks. And it feels like I'm being restricted by my own masculine fear, because that's how my father has felt. That's how it was in the past. That's how I have been impregnated and programmed by my ancestors. And there is nothing wrong or bad with that. I'm not seeing that anymore as something to fight against. It simply is a shift that has to happen in myself. Because when I put myself into a fight externally, I'm actually fighting against myself. I'm fighting against my own resistance that's creating disempowerment. But as I expand back into my full expansive self, I realize that it's just an lie and illusion. Now, this is a big part of stepping into 2025. I've been doing some of this work again as I count down into the energy and frequency that I'm holding for 2025 and how I am living my new level of rich, sexy, and free, both in the podcast, both in my business, both as my life itself, the fullness of myself, but also because I am running a 2025 year-long membership called the Year of Yes, the year of leaning in to your rich, sexy, and free life, the fullness of you, the more money, more love, more opportunities, more clients, more freedom, more travel, the leaning into more of life being turned up, the dial being turned up to the fullness of yourself, where you're no longer in that restricted state of guilt and fear and shame. And for me, that was always the story. I went back into that box out of guilt and shame, feeling guilty that I would disempower my father, that he would feel less of a man, less of a father. Shame, because if I came into the fullness of myself and my rich self, my full rich self, and living that, men would think I was uncontrollable, too crazy, too wild, too big, too dominating. And these are themes and stories I've heard from my clients over and over again. As we move beyond this, as we lean in and recognize it, it's not that these things disappear completely. It's because they become like little puffs and clouds that you go, that one, until eventually it evaporates and you're fully living in the next level. And that's why this membership is about being held in a space where you are supported in a new frequency of leaning in your yes, in your more, in your abundance, in your overflow, because that's the point. It's about being in the overflow. The membership itself has a bronze level, which is $97 a month, which you're getting that support, through Telegram, through monthly hot seat coaching, through celebration Fridays and Q&A Mondays. You're getting mentorship training. But of course, there's an opportunity to upgrade and have one-to-one mentorship with me. So it's a really beautiful space. And I'm excited because this has been birthing into this new frequency, and 2025 feels like the space for me to open up in a new way that I haven't done for a while. I actually stopped seeing many clients through the last 2024 as I was attuning to this new heightened, expansive, embodied frequency. If these two themes of you stepping into the fullness of yourself as a woman, it's very important, as the feminine, as the woman, and maybe you're holding yourself back because of your husband, because of your dad, because of your mother, because of the past, because you don't realize unconsciously that you've been impregnated with these ideas that you'll be crazy and uncontrollable, or that the idea that money always has to be something that comes from a struggle, from a pain, instead of pleasure. Krista Webb actually talks about this, about how we get to choose from pleasure or pain. And I think that's so important. You know, for me, it's about choosing from fun and from light. And that's what I mean from pleasure. But instead of making those choices of, oh my God, I don't have enough, I'm in pain, I then have to take action. And that is a very old masculine idea. I'm in pain, I've got to push myself through. I'm in lack, I've got to push myself through. And when I'm talking about masculine, I'm talking about masculine energy. And I am talking about old conditioned, disconnected masculine. It's not toxic, it's not bad. It's just the old disconnected masculine from the feminine. But when you are aligning your feminine and your masculine, they are linked together. They are working with a power source that comes through your feminine into your masculine, being able to show up in the world, being able to say yes, being able to take action. Because I know so many women have been doing that karma drama work. They've really digged in deep to heal those wounds. And yet they're still not getting the full manifestation because they cannot move into turning up the dial, leaning in. They don't trust their own inner masculine. They don't trust their own inner feminine to be in the fullness of herself because they're beholding those glass ceilings. So if this is resonating with you, reach out to find out more about the Year of Yes. Let's go and head on into these incredible stories from some of the guests of 2024.
Within 2 years of having absolutely nothing, financially speaking, my husband and I, through my business and then through our real estate portfolio, we created multiple millions. We're talking tons of millions at this point now, and it's happened quickly. The thing is, it's because when you play defense, and if you're somebody who really wants to win, but you're just playing defense again and again and again and again, you just have this breaking point. And you always hear people say it, and it sounds cliche, but like there's this part where you're just like, fuck it. Like I am so sick and tired of this feeling, and you just decide. And one of my favorite quotes ever, and it really helped me, was by Michael Bernard Beckwith, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. I seen him in person. Actually, it was manifested randomly, which was so beautiful, out of the blue, of course. But anyway, he says, pain pushes until vision pulls. Yeah. And when you are somebody who is really going for it and you want to play offense, you fall again and again and again and again. And eventually you get used to the falling, and it's just part of the game. It just becomes part of the game. But when you're falling, it hurts. And you're just like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And I think going through a bankruptcy and then also finding a dream job that I ended up getting fired from, which I don't even know why, but it all led me to starting my company. It all gave me the right tools to be here. And then I think what happens is that when I started and I carried into my corporate skill set, brought it into my business, a lot of people forget just because you're newer online does not mean you're a newbie. Okay. Yeah. Like I'm a newbie. My company just turned 4 years, right? Like we're all newbies. Technically, I joke around. That means I'm in 3rd grade if you want to count kindergarten. Like we're all new. But I also remembered who I was as this corporate executive saleswoman, as a business consultant, as somebody who went to college and had a degree in marketing with a minor in advertising. I thought about my corporate training. I thought about all the mentoring and coaching that I had. I thought of every book that I read. You have to own your expertise. And so that's exactly what I did when I first started. When I first started, people always said, how did you do it? I created multiple 6 figures in income within less than 6 months of losing my job and starting from scratch. People said, how did you do it? Again, I showed up intentionally. I made sure every day I was working like it was a job. And at the same time, like I was really being a woman already as a 7-figure woman. I went to people, I had conversations, like I owned it, I claimed it. I was like, I knew I'm here to change lives and I'm going to focus on doing that. So right away, my business took off like crazy, which is the dream. But what happens is when you stick with anything long enough, universal law, the tides go out, the tides come in, the seasons, they change. As I said, I'm in real estate. I'm constantly studying the market. The markets are bear, the markets are bull. It's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. You have to constantly be studying. And when you do anything long enough, it's not just the up and up and up. There's going to be dips. Now, my goal for anybody is not to have everything crush and crumble and then rise back up. It's to have little dips as you continue to incline. But I did have a dip, and it's interesting when we have dips or things that were working well don't work well anymore. One big thing that I learned is if something is really working, you don't have to tear it down to create something completely new. Please don't do that. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And if it works, don't stop it.
My first experience in the business space, I was like 9 and living with my Amish Mennonite family, selling rhubarb pies at the Amish market. I started my first business at 12. I started a tutoring company. I also was reading tarot for kids in middle school to make a little bit of extra money to pay for my little cell phone that I wanted to have. I've always had business in my background. I have 2 bachelor's degrees in both business and marketing management, and I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade now and made millions myself, helped my clients to make millions, but more importantly, from alignment. I was born into this life having certain spiritual gifting, but always putting it on the back burner. And when I was 23, 24 years old, graduated from college, was married with my first child, and skyrocketed to success in a direct sales company called Pure Romance. And it was so funny because I had this aha moment. I was like, wow, this is what everybody tells you success looks like. This is what they tell you you're supposed to want and you're supposed to strive for. And here I had it all at 24. And so I had a quarter life crisis and I started asking bigger questions like, who am I really? And what are we here for? What is the purpose? And all of this took me on a spiritual journey that led to me spending 5 years in initiation specifically in Africa. I was traveling back and forth. And that culminated in me completing an initiation, well, 7 initiations actually, in South Africa to become what is called a Sangoma or a Zulu shaman, but also many of them would probably refer to me as a Sanusi because of my gifting and the kind of work that I do as a leader, but also in my role of advising and mentoring some of the world's most incredible leaders.
I do a lot of work with money with women. There was somebody, she's like, I've been manifesting $1 million years for so long and it's not happening. And I'm like, well, what would happen if you were a millionaire? Like, describe the lifestyle to me of a millionaire. She's like, well, I could travel and I could do this and that. I'm like, yeah, but what else? And she's like, well, and I'm like, what about having a massive financial team? What about paying $100,000 a year to your finance team and to your lawyers and to your tax managers? And what about having money in the stock market and maybe losing it? What about family coming to borrow money from you and never paying it back? What about your friends saying that you're like a snobby rich asshole and they don't want to talk to you anymore and so now you're alone? You know, what does not having the money let you do? And she was like, oh my God. And then we had a breakthrough. And then after that, she wasn't manifesting $1 million years. I'm like, why don't we go for 6 figures? Let's go there. And let's go from there. I actually had an income wealth block with myself because I never experienced what it was like to see a woman happy and healthy with a lot of money. Every woman in my bloodline either was completely dependent as a housewife, like I was, like the reality I created for myself when I came here, either completely dependent or was wildly independent, but then terrible divorces, he takes half, super sick in the body, suffering a lot. And so as a creature, I was like, oh, money is cool, but it isn't really safe. And then there was this threshold, I think it was like 2021. I started my business 2019, 2020. There was a threshold where I just couldn't get past making like 50 grand. And that was the cap. And so like 10K months, sometimes 5. And I was like, I don't know why. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. But then it was this huge, big money shadow work practice that I did that I was like, oh my God, I have always felt money is the most dangerous thing. It's going to ruin my marriage. It's going to ruin my health. And whatever we believe unconsciously, we will not let ourselves be put in harm's way. We will not sacrifice our marriage. We will not sacrifice our health. We will keep ourselves safe. So this unconscious belief, if I make a lot of money, he's going to divorce me and my health is going to go in the toilet. Well, I love him, so I don't want that to happen. So my unconscious will keep me small. So then I blasted through that shadow and then I started making 50K months and then more. And in the same year, up to 380K in sales, this just from this one shadow work practice around money, but then being consistent with it.
It's been great to connect with you today, but before you leave, if you haven't already, don't forget to come and be part of the community. And if you want to find out more about how I can help you personally, simply visit richsexyandfree.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast.